Sometimes as a content creator, building a blog is a lot like building a house of cards. Then suddenly, some guy over at Google turns on a fan and it all comes tumbling down. So a lot of you have requested that I talk about the Google core updates and how to survive them in the future. Well, that's what the video is about today, so let's get into it. Hello YouTube, and a very special hello to all my subscribers. My name's Phil and welcome to my channel where I share my journey building an online income, which hopefully will help you with your own journey doing the same thing. So a lot of people want to know about how we can survive Google core updates because when they hit, they tend to hit hard. And I am no exception. So how much money would you pay to actually know exactly what to do to avoid the bad effects of a Google core update? Well, I would pay a lot of money, but the only people that know how to do that wouldn't be selling that information because Google are the only people. Now, all we can do on the outside is kind of learn from our experiences and try and make changes so that we don't get hit so hard in the future. So in this video, I just want to talk about a few ideas that you can follow in order to improve your website and make sure that you don't suffer as badly in the future, if not at all. So at the time of filming, there has just been a big Google core update. It happened back in December. Now, I didn't rush to make a video straight away because I wanted to wait and see what happened. I wanted the dust to settle because I had a feeling that all the bad effects that happened within days of them rolling out this core update would suddenly be reversed or would be improved. And I think I've been proved right, certainly for my websites. And I just want to talk about a few of those ideas and what might have been happening at the same time. So the first question I always want to ask myself after a core update, if I've been hit by it and my traffic's gone down, is where did the traffic go? So for me personally, the best way to monitor your traffic is through Google Analytics. I know there are other sort of programs out there, other platforms and things like that, but we all know that most of our traffic comes from Google anyway, and if Google have got their own tool, it's probably something that's quite useful. And of course, it's free to use. So what I would do, or what I have done, is I went to my Google Analytics and I looked at the trend of the traffic overall for the month in question, whether or not it's the latest update or in the past. And you can see, okay, if your traffic's dropping, but then what you want to do is go and look at each post individually. You can do this in a number of ways. You can compare your page views from the month in question compared to previous months, or you can literally look at each of the pages by going over to your behavior in the old version of Google Analytics. And you can check each of your posts and see, is this a trend that's affected the entire website? Or perhaps it's only affected one or two of your posts, and perhaps those were the posts that were bringing in the most traffic. So once you're satisfied that it's hit the entire site, then you're pretty sure that it might be a Google update rather than just losing ranking. Another way that you can test whether or not you've been slammed by this Google core update or whether or not you've just lost ranking is by actually doing a manual search. So when you've written your posts, hopefully you've written them all for a particular query. So you can literally put that query into Google search, making sure that you're using a different internet browser. So I do all my normal kind of internet stuff on Google Chrome, but then I have Firefox, which I've never signed into, and I use that for research and all this sort of thing. Or you can use a private video or incognito, depending on the internet browser that you're using. So just go and check all of your queries and see, are you still in the same position that you were previously? Have you dropped down? Have you lost the snippet? Because this could be an indication for why you're losing traffic on those posts. Of course, there are other kind of programs that you can use in order to track your queries and where they're ranking. A really good one is Manage WP. I actually use this for backing up my sites in addition to the backup that my hosting provides. And they allow you to track 100 queries for, about $1 or $2. It's really, really cheap. And for the most part, most of us have around about 100 queries, at least the top ranking ones. So what happens if you find that the query that you actually wrote the post for is still ranking in position 1, but you're still losing traffic? What can that mean? How can you check out what's happening? Well, in this case, I'd turn to Google Search Console. If you go into Google Search Console, it tells you basically all of the impressions and clicks and things you're getting through from the actual SERP to your website. It's a little bit different to Google Analytics because Google Analytics will show you the page views, and this also includes when someone lands on your site and then goes to other pages on your site. A Google Search Console doesn't show you that. So what you can do is actually look at each individual page and look at the month where you've lost traffic and go back to before the period where you think the change happened and just compare how many queries are you actually ranking for that particular post now compared to before. If there's a difference, if you were ranking for more queries before and less now, that means that Google have changed and the post is no longer relevant to those other queries. Now, this might sound like a terrible thing, but look at those queries. Are there extra posts that you can actually write? Could you actually get more content from the things that you were kind of ranking for already? Could you produce another post so you get that traffic back? And another thing that I would check, and this is actually something that applies to me, it's Google Trends. So Google Trends doesn't really give you numbers in terms of search volume, but it does tell you the trend throughout the year. I suppose that's why they call it Google Trends. And one thing that I've kind of noticed, this is my first time having a fair amount of traffic around this time of year of December. And I didn't realize that around December, there's a real drop in traffic. Like Christmas Day, there was no traffic at all. And that really surprised me because in my family, that's the time where I want to get on the internet, get away from the family and be on my own really. So it could be that your site is not actually being affected by a Google core update, but it's just seasonality. If that's the case, you can actually kind of prevent this happening by thinking ahead. So let's take a niche like fishing. Now, I'm not a fisherman. I have caught fish in the past, but I was like Tom Sawyer, you know, like with a stick and a bit of a string or something. I did actually catch a fish. But let's consider fishing. So if you're into fishing and it happens in the summer, then in the winter, it kind of makes sense that your traffic's going to drop off. But what you could do is maybe think of some alternative posts for that time of year. I mean, ice fishing, for example, could be an option. I'm not really an expert, but every single niche has something like that. Something that is going to be seasonality and you can always prevent against the drop off. So all of that is about kind of like understanding whether or not you really did get hit by a core update and whether or not you're just being outranked for certain things. And that information is really useful because you can act on it and you can actually get that traffic back and get even more traffic if you do the right things. So how do we actually prevent against a Google core update? Well, this is the tricky thing because Google doesn't really share exactly what they're looking for. There have been a few little leaks here and there. There has been a document which was leaked, which was basically the 200 ranking factors that they're actually human workers use to go through sites and actually rank them. Now, I'm not saying that only people do this, but they did actually have people checking on sites to see whether or not they should be getting the ranking they were getting. So you can find that document. I will put a link to that in the description. There's also guidelines that Google kind of give out, and they're a little bit vague from time to time, but generally their advice is produce better content. Now, that's really, really annoying actually. I mean, you may already think you're producing the best content possible. I don't think that of myself. I know that I'm not a complete expert in my field. I don't know everything, but there are a few things that you can do. So one of the really important things is actually to do your own research. If you produce your own stats, your own research, this can put you ahead of your competition because most people out there are just looking at the information already available on the internet, kind of piling it together and presenting it onto a new post at best. Other people are just literally copying other people's work and just changing a few words and putting it on the internet. We can beat those people by just doing a little bit more legwork, a little bit more research. And all I mean by research is you could go and call someone. If you are sort of in the aviation kind of niche and you know, you may have got a few hours flying like I have, but maybe you call up a flight instructor and you ask them a question. Then you use that information as a quote in your blog. That's research. You could go to your community, go to a Facebook group, a Reddit page, and you could actually have a poll, ask people their opinion. That's research. Or you could really go for it and do experiments and things yourself. Research doesn't have to be as difficult as it sounds, but most people aren't willing to do it. And if you do that, it will put you ahead because your content will be unique and it will be better than your competition. In addition to trying to improve your content, the other major thing is don't break the rules. Now, a lot of the things that helped you to rank in the past don't work now, and that's what we call black hat methods. And it's things like buying links and doing kind of scummy things. Google doesn't like that. Google is a smart company. They have a lot of money behind them and they are looking for people doing that, and they are taking them out the rankings. So if you're building your site following these kind of archaic, what we would consider now misbehaving and wrong, you're not going to rank as well as someone who is just naturally producing good content and being helpful and not trying to game the system. So don't break the rules. And if you are breaking the rules, stop doing it now. And another big thing that's come about in the last kind of year or so is something called EAT, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. This basically means, are you doing what you're saying that you're doing? Are you actually active in the niche? Not whether or not you're a professor in your niche, if you've got degrees in your niche. It's like, if you're talking about go-karting, do you actually go go-karting on Saturdays? You don't even have to own a go-kart, just a few pictures of you in a go-kart so that when you say something about it, you know what you're talking about. This is really important for kind of building a relationship with your audience, and also for just basically coming across as someone who knows what they're talking about. So some simple ways to build EAT would be to join a couple of Facebook groups, to maybe set up a Facebook page yourself, to actually join Reddit, to be active in the community and forums. An extreme way, well, maybe not extreme, but is to get on a podcast, maybe to do a collab with another YouTube channel. Now, I have to admit, those two, for me, are a little bit scary because I always have that kind of imposter syndrome. But if you can do that, it's not as difficult as it sounds because everyone loves free content. And if you say to someone on a podcast, I will come and talk on your podcast for free, they go, yeah, let's do that. It's really that simple. You've just got to kind of have the balls to go and ask and do it. And another really good way in order to make sure that you survive these core updates is to emulate the people that do the best, to emulate the people that don't get affected by this. And a really good example of this is Income School. So I am a student of Income School. You probably know this if you've been watching me for a while. I follow their program, Project 24. I've been doing it for about 18, 19 months now. And it's really so different to everything I've done before. I was one of those kind of scammy people before. I always thought the internet was just a way of scamming people and trying to get money that way. I never thought you could have a legitimate business and actually make money while helping people until I met these guys. So what I recommend you do is go and have a look at their website. So Income School are quite different to any other of the gurus out there because they actually give you the actual URL of their websites. They share that information. So go over to, there should be a list of all the websites they've owned currently and the ones they've sold. Just go and have a look at those websites. I'm not saying copy the information, but I'm saying copy the style. Look at the layout, look at how they present the information. What's their about page like? You know, what are they doing right? Just go read the websites and you will pick that up just like subconsciously, and then apply those tactics to your own websites. This is a way that you can make sure that you can survive a core update. If you found this video useful at all, please do consider giving me a like, because it not only helps me in my rankings on YouTube, but it also kind of tells me whether or not you like this video. And if you do, I can produce things in the same style in the future. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in a future video very soon. Bye-bye.